Once you understand the concepts and material you need to know for the exam, the next biggest hurdle I see students struggle with is tackling the short answer questions on CAIB exams. If you've never written a CAIB exam before, you might not be familiar with how these questions are structured and what makes a winning response. Drawing from my decade of experience prepping students for their CAIB exams, here are the top 3 tips you need to know. When you read a short answer question, oftentimes, the question will include key action words that will tell you how they want you to answer the question. When you see compare, you're being asked to show how things are alike and different. Think of it as finding both the similarities and the contrasts. But if the question says contrast, focus only on the differences. Define is straightforward. Simply say what something means using clear, simple words. Describe goes a step further, asking you to paint a picture with words about what something is like. Now, explain is where you really dive deep. This is your cue to give detailed information about how or why something works. Identify wants you to name specific things and back them up with examples, while illustrate asks you to use those examples to make your ideas crystal clear. When you encounter justify, you need to put on your persuasive hat and give strong, logical reasons for your answer or choice. And finally, list. This one's simple. Just write down the items or facts, no explanation needed. Master these action words and you'll never again wonder what an examiner really wants from your response. Here's an example to help us understand this a little bit better. Provincial insurance legislation in common law jurisdictions mandates that fire insurance policies must automatically include coverage for 2 other specific perils that cause direct property damage. A. 1 mark. Identify the 2 additional perils that are automatically included with fire insurance coverage. B. 2 marks. Determine whether the fire insurance policy would provide coverage for each of the following scenarios. The insured owns all buildings, inventory, and equipment listed in the policy. Answer covered or not covered for each situation. 1. Fire damage to 8 16-foot kayaks, stored for retail sale at the insured's sporting goods store. 2. Property damage from radioactive contamination that occurred when an electric heating system malfunctioned and exploded at a medical testing facility. As you can see from the underlined word, the key word in part A of the question is identify. That means we should state the items. So a good answer would be, in addition to fire, the fire policy also insures the perils of 1. Lightning and 2. Explosion of coal, natural or manufactured gas. We clearly and succinctly listed the 2 additional perils. When the marker is looking at your answer for the short answer questions on the CAIB exams, they're searching to see if you included the keywords related to the concept they're trying to test. For example, if the question asks you to state whether or not Bob's Bakery can enter into contracts and explain your reasoning, here you want to be sure to include the keywords legal capacity and trade name. Even if you have the general idea correct, your chances of receiving full marks for that question are lower if you don't include those keywords. To help with this, we've included a glossary of key terms in our insurance licensing courses, which lists each key term you need to know, along with its correct definition. Here's an example question to help us understand this a little bit better. Define the key term latent defect. The answer is, a latent defect is a defect that is hidden from reasonable inspection. By including the key phrase reasonable inspection, we communicate the idea that it is a defect that is hidden, one that would not be discovered during a routine inspection, or a defect that isn't apparent. There are many ways you could phrase the answer, and you may get points. But if we include the key word, we guarantee that we are awarded the points for that answer because we make it obvious that we know what we're talking about. My usual advice is to write just enough to answer the question without writing too much that you dig yourself into a hole or ramble on in the wrong direction. Make sure you're writing enough to answer the question, but not too much where you might accidentally include something that is incorrect. Ideally, it's best to keep things short and rely on keywords to demonstrate to the marker that you know the concept they're trying to test. It's best to keep things short and sweet and rely on the keywords, from tip number 2, to demonstrate to the marker that you understand the concept they're trying to test. As you can see from the model answers given for the 2 previous examples, we did not ramble on. We answered the question the way they wanted as clearly as possible. In example number 1, we also made it clear which was peril number 1 and which was peril number 2. If we give a long list, the marker may not be able to tell which is which. In example number 2, we used the key phrase to replace a long explanation, and we did not give additional details or examples that may confuse the marker. Some common mistakes I've seen is people trying to give examples of what is and or is not a latent defect. And often these examples are wrong, causing the marker to not award them the point for the question, or in some cases, only partial points for certain questions. These three strategies of focusing on the key action word in the question, using the key term in your answer, and keeping it short and sweet will transform how you approach short answer questions on your CAIB exam. Remember, it's not just about knowing the material, it's about presenting your knowledge in the way the examiners want to see it. Put these techniques into practice as you study, and you'll walk into that exam room with confidence. Having helped students with their CAIB exams for almost a decade, I can tell you that those who master these short answer strategies consistently perform better on their CAIB exams. Good luck.